pleasure. Might as well just start right in. So what I hope to do there we go, works, good thing. So it's 40 years anniversary of Roe versus Wade. It's also 40-year anniversary of pregnancy health. And I think it's a good time to sort of take a step back, look at where we've come, where we are, and where we want to go. And so that's what I hope to do today, this morning. I want to look at a few things. We're going to look a little bit at the history. We're going to look at the vision of our integrated approach to assisting women. This is what we do now at Pregnancy Health. And also an interesting study we did in collaboration with the Boston College School of Nursing that gives a lot of insight into where we go now, walking together, as we all walk together to better serve these women. So here we are, and this is what it's all about. Woman is pregnant, crisis, unwed, most likely, maybe not. That was sort of more the traditional crisis pregnancy was the unwed mother, but it isn't the case anymore, as you will see in our statistics that I will show you later. Unintended, certainly, unplanned, certainly, and unwanted, as Katie just talked about, so many unwanted. On the other side, this is where she's experiencing. She's overwhelmed, she's anxious, she's ashamed, she's afraid, she's alone, and she is abandoned. Now, I'm going to say that we have been dealing with this problem since maybe Cain and Abel, right? Beginning of time. It's part of our human condition. However, the response and the choices really are determined by cultural, moral, and our legal establishment. So this situation, you can go back to, all through history has been there. So luckily for all of you and myself, when I am going to be talking about where we've come, I'm not going to go back to Cain and Abel. I'm just going to start with maternity homes and World War I. So they were the norm, really, in this country to deal with this problem up until the early 70s. With the Roe versus Wade decision. Before World War I, though, the interesting thing I found when I was doing my research is that a lot of the maternity homes were run by Christian women who, were out to sort of save these women from their wayward lives, and they had the mother and the child would live in the home together, and even despite the stigma of being illegitimate, they would teach these women to sew and to raise their children and to do things so that they weren't completely impoverished. So then, after World War II, as they call it, the era of adoption came, and that began with a decision in 1947 when the National Florence Crittenden's Mission abandoned its policy of keeping the mother and the child together. So you can see how these women had no place to go with their child, and so the choice to parent them was really not there for them. And so they were pretty much forced to choose adoption as their only option. And the interesting thing about all of this that I also found is that only a quarter of the women, in both situations, were in their teens. Most of the women were in their 20s. And some of the women were in college. Most of the women were not teenagers. And they went there alone. Parents didn't know, family didn't know, and they would get pregnant and they would find a maternity home somewhere and they would go. And it was common for them to stay until after the adoption papers were signed. An interesting thing is, there was 1.5 million young women who, out of wedlock, placed their children from adoption from World War II up until 1973. And there was a woman recently who wrote a book called Girls Who Went Away, Ann Fessler, and she was one of these children who was placed for adoption, and she interviewed many, many women who had who had experienced this. And the interesting thing was that so many of them, over and over again, had never told anyone they had a child, not even their parents, not even their siblings, not even their other children. So it was still this secret, similar to what abortion has become. So we're going to move on to the Crisis Pregnancy Center movement. You can see here that these are the main players. There's many people that are involved in this, but these are the main ones, that I put up here. Birthright International started in 1968, and Heartbeat International was originally alternatives to abortion. That started in Toledo, Ohio, and they added hotlines and pregnancy testing. 1973, Pregnancy Help, there we are. 1975 was CareNet started with Christian Action Coalition, and then became CareNet in, let me see, I have that number, CareNet in 1999. In 1985, you have International Life Services, which does a lot of we get our training from, and then NIFLA. So some of these are names you might recognize, those of you who are familiar with this. So, where we are now. So this movement, this pregnancy center, now we call them pregnancy resource centers. Where have we come from those beginnings? Well, Birthright now has 400 chapters worldwide. Heartbeat has 1,400 affiliated centers, maternity homes and adoption agencies in 50 states and 47 countries. CareNet has 1,100 affiliated centers. International Life Services, 47 centers. Sisters of Life. Sisters of Life, I'm going to talk a little bit because I'm not going to talk too long because that's our next speaker. But they, as many of you probably know, they were founded by John Cardinal O'Connor in 1991, and they currently have 4 convents, 3 in New York City and 1 in Toronto. But the interesting thing about them is they are the first religious order to take a 4th vow to protect and enhance the sacredness of life. And then NIFLA has 1,200 members, and they started the whole medical clinic, ultrasound initiative, and they currently have trained over 2,000 nurses in limited ultrasound. So you can see this sort of rather colossal movement in a way, and I think that even though it seems very frustrating at times and we're up against so much, we have to really look at the success of the crisis pregnancy centers, or we call them pregnancy resource centers because it sort of says more what we do, you know. Pregnancy resource centers are considered the front lines of the cultural battle against abortion. There are currently close to 3,000 pregnancy resource centers in the USA, and that's opposed to about 1,800 abortion clinics. And they offer a wide range of services, including helplines, pregnancy testing, material assistance, education, referrals to ultrasound and STD testing. And now we're all getting more into this Google optimization, and as a public transportation, there's a way to try to be the first one there for the woman to call when she's in a crisis. So we're trying to stay ahead of some of the advertising technology and internet stuff that's out there. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about abortion and the statistics. I don't want to spend too much time with that, but I think it's really important to know what we're up against. So there's 1.2 million abortions a year in the United States, and 553 million since Roe versus Wade. Assuming the Archdiocese of Boston reflects the national trends, that missed there. There's supposed to be something in that slide. Okay, I have a copy of my slides. It didn't show up. So 25% of all pregnancies end in abortion. 7% are repeat abortions. And let's see, 1 out of 3 women of childbearing age have undergone an abortion. Oh, there it is. Just wanted to keep me on my toes. Okay, so let's see where we are here. It's doing, all right, I guess this is going to be doing some fancy things that I didn't, It's, all right, so abortions in Massachusetts, there are more than 24,000 abortions in Massachusetts. 300 abortions per 100 live births, and 12% highest rate in the United States. I don't know.
Could you say those figures one more time?
If I hit it again? Oh. It's doing, I didn't expect to have this little, okay, here you go, okay? So that's in Massachusetts. All right. Now, age and religious affiliation of all women obtaining abortions. So most abortions are for women who are in 20 to 24 years of age, as you can see. And who has abortions with religious identification, and this is one of the frustrating things, is that Catholics, it's no different for Catholics than the rest of the population. So that's one of our, so that's sort of some information there. So one of the things about that last slide that I forgot to mention is that it's not teenagers. Teenage abortion rate actually has gone way down. It's mostly women. Our mean age of pregnancy health is 27. That's our mean age. So marital status and abortion. There we go. So unmarried women account for 86% of all abortions, and married women account for 14%. So most women are unmarried, and who are most at risk? Women in the early years of pregnancy, college students, poor women, and mothers with other children. I don't think that somehow that got lost somewhere, that 61% of all women who have abortions have other children. That statistics, I'm not sure what happened here. Okay.
Do you have a brochure with all statistics available for us to take back?
I don't have it in a brochure, but if you know, we
I
can.
can get the slide, I can write the information down. It's gotta be somewhere.
Yeah, we can talk about it after if you want the numbers. I can see what I can do to print. I can get it to you. All right. So why women have abortions? So in the media, what do you hear? It's the woman who has been raped, the woman who has health issues, but that's really only 7.5% are the hard cases. 93% are for social and relationship reasons, which would be economic, financial, abandonment, just not the right time, those sorts of reasons. So even though the hard cases is what everybody talks about, I think it's a lot of the press, it's really very, very small percentage of why women are looking to have an abortion, or have reasons they've given for having an abortion.